Okay, so there are quite a few budget tablet choices out there. Now, in case you are currently considering picking up an iPad 9 specifically, does this tablet provide you enough value given the price point where it's at? Let's go ahead and talk about it. All right, this is the iPad 9. It's also the iPad 8. It's also the iPad 7 and so forth, at least in terms of looks, right? Hasn't changed one bit. So why would you spend $330 for this guy when you can get the same look, by spending $200? Sure, this one here, the current generation that you see here, has seen a number of upgrades that could make it worth your while, but the fact that this thing still looks so old just turns off a lot of people. Plus, what Apple calls budget may not be considered budget by many people out there, simply because nowadays you can actually get your hands on a pretty nice budget tablet on the Android side, for less money than this. But does that mean it can keep up with this guy? Maybe, but in a different way, not necessarily talking about raw power. Look at the Xiaomi Mi Pad 5, for example. That little guy can do quite a few things. And as you may know already, this channel is kind of value oriented. That's why I always advise people looking for a specific tablet to make sure that they check out the previous version first, because tablets have become so good. But anyway, I digress here. In the case of the iPad 9, I personally think that this is one of the best value tablets that Apple has ever designed, built and made and put out there, right? Especially for people looking for a budget iPad, right? So if you are in the market for a budget iPad, this is the best possible value you can get from the tablets made by Apple. Again, if you are looking specifically for a budget iPad, let's say you're currently shopping for like a previous generation iPad 8, or like iPad 7 or iPad mini 4 or mini 5 or previous generation iPad Air, just something older that you hoping to buy at an affordable price, this right here would be your best bet. So let's say you have $300 and you are looking to buy like an iPad Air. No, just stop right there and just go get yourself this guy here. It's very relevant in terms of just specs, performance. Sure, the design is old, like I've already said, but it is as budget. This is the, it's going to offer you as much value as Apple is willing to give out, no matter how much value you think you can get from the previous generation iPads. And here's even a funny reality about this particular iPad. It's just that despite the old look that you see here, this iPad is actually as current and as relevant as many of the new ones. And, don't let that old look fool you. It's very relevant to today. Let's take, for example, one of the largest upgrades that Apple implemented here, the front-facing camera. Now, look at the dynamics today, the way we communicate with each other. Video calls have become kind of the normal, right? In fact, I'm even thinking I do a lot more text than voice calls, and then I would do a lot more video calls than I do voice calls. That's kind of the new normal, right? So they've made this to match the reality that we live in. It is a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera integrated with center stage. That's that center stage feature which kind of adjusts the shot during a video call to make sure that it keeps up with the subjects or the subject if the subject is moving. And it does so by automatically adjusting to, go wide or, crop a little to make sure that everyone stays in frame. And what this tells us is that Apple really took into consideration the world that we live in, and then they prioritized our way of communicating and implemented that super useful flagship feature on the iPad 9. And besides that, it actually takes pretty good pictures, right? So you have something with front-facing camera that pretty much matches what you have on the iPad mini. So it's actually way ahead any previous iPad or iPad Air, specifically the front-facing camera, of course. And by the way, I'm certainly hoping that you're enjoying the content so far. If you are enjoying the content, I truly appreciate that. Please do me a favor, hit both the like and the subscribe button there. I appreciate that. Anyway, so they also made the tablet very relevant by just, implementing a platform here that is still current, simply because it can compete with a number of mid-range tablets and even some tablets that may be considered pro tablet in terms of just raw performance, of course. So I'm not talking overall user experience against, Android pro tablet. I'm talking in terms of raw performance. in terms of Geekbench results, this guy keeps up with a lot of mid-range from the Android platform and even some Pro tablets. It's boasting an 813 Bionic chip, which is the one found on the iPhone 11 series, and it is advertised to be 20% faster than the previous iPad generation, or the iPad 8. Performance is fantastic, so day-to-day tasks, medium, and also heavy tasks are handled pretty well, including photos and video editing. All of that works pretty well here. It's been showing very, very impressive GPU performance, and I mean really impressive. And like I highlighted in the previous video, I have been able to edit on this tablet with no issues at all. No stutter, no crashes, none of that stuff. Plus, given the size also, 10.2 inches, it's very comfortable to use for editing compared to, let's say for example, the iPad mini, because it's so much smaller. The same goes for multitasking, right? So you could do a good level of multitasking here without any issues. Same with gaming. You could play games here, including heavy games. As long as it's in the App Store, no matter how heavy it is, you'll be able to play it on here without any issues. And these are just a couple of the major upgrades that just make it, really worth it. Even if you have to pay a little bit more than you would for an iPad from a year or a couple years ago, I would say go for it. And of course, I mean, if budget permits, right? I'm not saying if you don't have this, if you have this outside your budget for you to go try to get it, but I'm just saying if you have a budget right now where you're gonna go get an iPad 8 or an iPad 7 or whatever the case may be, or an iPad Air 2 or iPad Air 3, if you can add a little bit of money and go for this guy, I would say go for it if you can. Obviously, if you cannot, then just go ahead and stick with whatever you had in mind. Either way, Apple has done a pretty good job upgrading this guy. As a matter of fact, you will also have a base storage here that's been upgraded to 64 gigs. And that's pretty amazing coming from Apple. We know how stingy Apple is when it comes to internal storage. That's literally double the amount of storage they were offering last year on the iPad 8. So if you are trying to get an iPad 8, you will be getting half the storage here. And I also should add that the main reason so many people want to go for this tablet is also because the internal storage doubled and the price remained the same. Apple devices generally do not have expandable storage, so this is a win for many people, and definitely something you should be thinking about if you are considering an iPad. Now I want to go ahead and end the video now, but the last thing that I want to add here is another upgrade that was added to this tablet is of course True Tone, right? Which is indeed that feature that will help your device find kind of the right color balance, if I could say that, the right color balance for your eyes depending on the setting you are in, right? So if you are in an environment that's either too cool or too warm or whatever the lighting conditions are, your tablet will adjust accordingly. But anyway, let me go ahead and stop here and just give you my take. Now, if you want a budget tablet, an Apple budget tablet, this is it. This is the one you're looking for. Unless, of course, you are in the market, again, for something completely different, like an iPad mini or like an iPad Pro from a previous generation. Let's say you're looking for a budget iPad Pro specifically. Well, that's one thing. But if you're just looking for a budget iPad, whether it's an iPad Air or Pro or whatever the case, maybe you just want something budget, if you can afford to go for this guy, don't even hesitate. Just go for it. Anyway, that was my take on the iPad 9 on whether you should buy it, and the answer is go ahead and buy it if you are in the market for this. I'm certainly hoping that this was informative. Please don't forget to like, of course, comment. Let me know what your question in the comment section. If there are things you'd like to know about the tablet, things you would like for me to test out and share with you, let me know all of that in the comment section. I'm going to catch you in the comment section. I'm also going to catch you in the next video like I always do. And up until that next video, of course, as always, stay safe out there.